I think this is the third time that I participate in the gathering, and always I am here in Brazil, and the connection. Uh, stay with me. Yeah, I need to. So I ask you some patience to and more telepathy. Um, well, what I want to share with you today is about the power of now. Of course, this is not something new, and and the way that I will tell you probably is because it's my experience. Uh, I I have made the 21-day process in 2001 here in Brazil. Um, begins with my mother, and she made like not alone in a place where just my father could visit her. And in the middle of nature, in a very nice place, very calm. And to us was like something strange, but very uh, beautiful, and and was, we were very curious about it. Um, to my mother, the system was like if I spent 1 week without water, I will be very thirsty. If I spend 21 days without food, I will be very weak. And that's what happens. That's 21 days we couldn't uh, see her, so we didn't participate in her process. We just find my mother after 21 days, and she was incredible. So much light, so much connection, so much presence. And the whole members of my family want to be the same. And my family is not so small. It's my father, mother, and 10. So the house start to be very, you know, the time was like very exciting. And after 4 months, more members of the family start to do the, and for sure change our life. It was something really meaningful. Of course, we already had our spiritual path. We follow the teachings of Yogananda, Paramahansa Yogananda. And after do this process, the connection with the spirituality, I think more real, more authentic. After that, for 2 years later, I, I start to be invited to yoga centers, holistic places, to talk about my own experience. And the next 9 years, I really traveled around the world. And it was incredible to see people, to talk with people, see the different experience. But in 2010, something changed. And I decided to change the way that I talk about experience. From 2001 to 2010, my energy was really focusing Breatharianism. Is about actually a lot about not eating. I don't know what is the relation that you have, you guys, about this. But something changed, and now I feel with um, my relation with this topic. I spent 8 years after this changing, talking about my new phase of the relation with the Pranic. Can you hear me well? Fine? Not so much. Okay. Well, Last year, 2018, after 17 years from my process,
dopo 17 anni dal mio processo,
I decided to do the 21-day process again.
di rifare il processo di 20 giorni.
It's because I had a lot of
Avevo un sacco di
theory about and about the process. I travel, I find people, I connect with other people that make the process, and since 2002 we have that follow people in this process.
delle persone mi hanno seguito in questo processo.
And we have a lot of experience in the 21 days process.
Ancora ce l'abbiamo.
We spent the whole year following
Abbiamo speso
people
interi anni
in this
questa modalità.
all kind of people,
Con tutti i tipi di persone,
different religions, different backgrounds.
differenti linee di pensiero.
So it was time to experience again this,
Fare l'esperienza un'altra volta.
this,
Questo è.
especially because in January of last year
In generale, le persone l'anno scorso
I lived a not so good experience
un'esperienza così buona
in Belgium.
in Belgio.
The open channel of television
L'apertura del canale in televisione
show a program about
programma sulla
quem sabe português me ajuda agora, sobre charlatanismo.
charlatanismo in Portogallo.
Alguém?
Ok?
Like people that is fake, it's falsification of
Fake.
real story, no? It's not genuine. This kind of people that
The deformed reality, they change,
La realtà
they
delle forme che
falsify the
cambiano.
information.
Charlatanismo.
yeah.
Yeah, fake people.
Fake people, yeah. Persone false. Fasulle.
And one of these people were
Una di queste persone
me.
ero io.
They, of course, use one of my retreats. Yeah, one guy there, hide with camera, with microphone,
Prendono con camere, microfoni, telecamere
and then showing the television what he wants to show.
quello che stai facendo, quello che stai essendo.
And it was very bad, not nice.
Molto bruttissimo.
And I have a relevant work that is with the protection of animals.
Con gli animali.
And my worry was not about the image of Oberom,
non era l'immaginazione, l'immagine, ma
but the credibility
la
that
credibilità che
I
io
start
ho cominciato
to talk
a
about
parlare
the animals.
degli animali.
From there, I decided to
Ho
not
deciso
talk
di non
about
parlare più
the
con
experience
gli
of
spiriti perché ho
21 Day
sentito
Process anymore.
di questi animali.
And I changed the name
Ho
of
chiamato
21 Day Process. We still
il
finish,
modo del processo
and today we call
oggi
Prana Prashakti.
lo chiamiamo prana per Shakti. Prana per Shakti.
To not associate with
Non
the
associare
living on life uh, process,
sulla luce
Breatharianism, still women, same roots, and same process. But the the goal, it's not about
non è
eating.
sul mangiare,
The goal is about to be in the
di essere nel prana, nello spirito, non nel cibo.
how powerful is to go to this place of
Questo posto
unity, the
unità,
presence.
di presenza,
It's like
è
go out of
guardare
many
fuori dalla mente,
dimensions
fuori dal
and just jump
semplicemente
this dimension of
questo
divinity,
il brillare della divinità,
where the life
dov'è
really
la vita
happens.
accade veramente.
Sorry, my English, I know it's not
Mi scuso
that.
per il mio inglese, che non è ottimo.
So I start
Quindi ho
my
cominciato
process.
il processo,
It's like, well, I know this, I know how it works, I know what happens in the first day, in the second day, third day, and everything is quiet,
calma,
knowing you what going on.
e va avanti.
But then in the fourth day, until the fourth day, starting to the first day, in 21 day,
Cominciato dal primo,
the last,
e quindi è andato avanti.
I really went to a place.
In un posto
It's incredible.
è incredibile, è incredibile.
A place where we can really experience who I am,
Vivere veramente, fare esperienza,
the power of the
come lavora
the higher
tutto ciò,
I am.
la forma più alta.
As most of the people knows, that first week is without any
Posto,
water, no juices, nothing.
niente giudizio, niente di niente.
Normally, from the fourth day
Dal quarto giorno in poi
into the 7th day,
fino al settimo
we lose sleep, so we keep mind always awake.
e la mente va via, va sempre via.
And after that
E dopo questo,
cup of
questa tazza di...
we back to this dimension of
ritorniamo a questa dimensione
few things in this way that we
nella
normally
che
knows.
normalmente sappiamo.
But since my
Da quando
wake up nights
quando risvegliamo
and even
la mia
my juices in the second week
la mia giunzione con questo mondo
remains in that dimension,
quella
in
dimensione
that state
in
of unity.
quello stato.
How many of you made the 21-day
Quanti
process?
di voi hanno fatto questo processo?
Okay. Well,
Allora,
when we don't put anything in our intestines,
nel nostro organismo
we have no influence
nessuna influenza
from the intestines,
dalle
from the intestine in our mind.
nella nostra mente.
As you know,
Come sapete,
the science calls the intestine the second brain.
c'è un secondo cervello.
So when we have the intestine empty, no, with outside information,
Non c'è niente,
our mind
la nostra mente
became
diventa
very clear.
molto piccola.
It's like
È
it
come
open,
se aprissimo
and for sure we start to see in a different way.
cominciamo a vedere in un'altra maniera, la nostra mente si allarga, abbiamo altre visioni.
When we start to put juices, it's like giving some nourish for the ego. The ego became a little bit more strong, but the observer still there. And nourish this observer is the way to have this secret experience of presence. That's why we also talk about not putting suffering, violence inside of our. When we eat animals or animal secretions like eggs, we put that information of suffering inside of our intestines. And that reflecting in our mind. Most of the people eating this way and the first disease in our planet today, the number one is the because people
perché
eating
persone mangiano
sadness. When we
noi
put out
li buttiamo
the
fuori
food and
il cibo,
be we and
siamo,
we start to see
cominciamo a vedere
the real nature of our mind
la vera natura della nostra mente,
without any influence
senza
from
nessuna influenza
second brain.
a cose secondarie.
And this gives
E
us
questo ci dà
higher experience of joy.
più forte, più alto,
Because our nature
la nostra
is
natura
happiness,
è la felicità,
our nature is love.
la nostra natura è l'amore.
So
Così,
when we are in
quando
this
siamo
stage
in questo stato,
in connection with this power that is
in
love,
connessione con questo,
naturally
la
we
natura
start to nourish
cominciamo
the observer.
a apprezzare l'osservatore.
And when we
Quando
start to observe,
cominciamo a
we
osservare
go to the present moment.
il momento del presente,
And when we are in the present moment, we go out of the ego, ego's control. Okay, because ego's living in the future and past, and control our lives in this way. Worries, patience, bad deeds, anxious. And normally we're suffering. We lose the presence of the light that happens right here, right now. So when we are not in the ego's control, when we are present, the part of us that works, that operates, is the consciousness. And the consciousness work with a ingredient called discernment. So we start to see the things as that there are the things that out. And we start to do decisions of choice in is according to our nature. So in a love way. And we don't lose so much energy when we are not full of energy. Normally we go to the automatic pilot, and the automatic pilot
la modalità
is the ego.
è l'anima.
So we just follow our
Seguiamo semplicemente
pleasures,
i nostri piaceri,
sex and food, sex,
mangiare,
food,
sesso,
and
mangiare,
other
mangiare, e
uh,
tutto il resto no.
experience.
Le nostre esperienze.
And normally we lose
Perdiamo
the mission that
la missione
we came to
che possiamo
realize.
realizzare.
But once I am in the presence and I am the consciousness,
La consapevolezza,
I can see
posso
clearly
chiaramente
what I can,
cosa è avvenuto,
what is my
che
mission.
cos'è la mia missione.
Well,
Beh,
first of all,
prima di tutto,
it's not so
non
easy
è
to be in the present moment because we have
abbiamo
energy to maintain the observer.
da trasmettere all'osservatore.
And if I have no discipline, if I have no care about my diet, it's a little bit difficult to maintain this observer. But once I have energy enough to start to observe, I jump to this moment, the present moment. I start to be driven by the consciousness. I start to do good choices. That choices that not steal my energy. And when I am here, in this spectacular moment of my life, I can be what I am. And this means be happy. And when I am happy, my level of frequency goes up. I start to experience different layers of happiness. And more I go higher in this experience of happiness, more energy I have to the observer. So when I am observing, I go to the present moment. When I am in the present moment, I am consciousness. When I am consciousness, I can see the life as a perfection. And when I am in this perfection, I can't be happy. When I am happy, my frequency level goes up. And when my frequency is higher, I have energy to observing. And then when I am observing, I go to the present moment. And then I am consciousness. When I am consciousness, I perceive them as and then I in perfection I happy. So I can maintain my life in this simple, constant, and happy. But my work, my discipline is maintain my presence. And this was so profound. I live it like I discovered many the bad side of Oberom was very clear, was there. And also the beautiful that there. And after the process, when I back to eating, the solid food, I perceived that uh, the moment that I start to eat, my ego became very excited and say more. And the same way, I decide to be present in that experience. So I started chewing without any intentions to swallow down, to swallow that food. Just chewing. Very present experience. So after my, my lunch, my food session, I perceived that I didn't lose my, and I perceived that um, we can maintain the clarity of the mind. We can maintain focus even it. But of course, we have we have to have awareness about what,
una consapevolezza di quello che facciamo.
otherwise we lose this.
Perdiamo questa osservazione.
And since my second 21-day process,
Quando il mio secondo processo è cominciato,
Prana Prashakti, I have this experience
ho avuto
remind me every day
che
in the
ritornava
morning.
in me.
So I sit to meditate
E mi sono seduto
and
a meditare
I go to that observer.
sono andato da
I
quell'osservatore
focus
e ho
present moment,
focalizzato su di lui
observing and have this
e ho avuto
terrible experience of
un'esperienza
just
fetale
to be
solamente dell'essere
here and now.
qui e ora.
And the rest of my day, I have many distractions.
Ho avuto un sacco di distruzioni.
My mind go to the future, to the
La mente
past,
andava al futuro, al passato,
but one part of
ma
me
una parte di me
is aware about what
lo
happens.
sapeva cosa stava succedendo.
I have consciousness that this
Avevo
is happening
la
in my mind.
consapevolezza di quello che stavo provando.
And I work to be aware about my feet when I walk.
I miei piedi, avevo la consapevolezza di non sentire i piedi quando camminavo,
I work to be aware about my sleeping, about my food, about relationships, my words,
il mio lavoro, cercavo di mantenere un po' la distanza,
especially my
specialmente
thoughts.
le mie pratiche.
So this experience gives us
È quello che ci dà
different meaning for our life,
della nostra vita.
especially because when
Quando
we
noi
what we are,
ci arriviamo,
we start to see the steps of our
di questa forma
so clear
così chiara,
that it's like moving
come
to a flow
andare in un flusso
I call
che chiamo
magical flow, miracle flow.
magico, il flusso magico.
It's like everything that you need to complete your journey, your spiritual journey, your mission,
Viaggio del tuo spirito,
the universe just
l'universo,
gives to you.
che l'universo ti dà.
We really live the experience of abundance.
Vivi l'esperienza in cui ti abbandoni.
Just because you are,
Sei,
not because you do a special thing or you
speciali,
incorporate a new
incorpori
character.
caratteri, personaggi,
Just because you are nature, the real being.
l'essere reale.
That's it for today.
Questo è tutto per oggi.
So, if you have
Se avete
some questions,
domanda,
I will be happy to
sarò
answer.
felice
If
di rispondervi, di chiarire i vostri dubbi.
Nicholas is there?
C'è Nicolas?
No.
Via.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Ho una domanda. Puoi
Yes,
sentirmi?
I hear.
Thank you for your sharing. We couldn't hear you all the time very well, but at one point you were talking about um, chew- chewing with the mouth empty, and I didn't understand whether you said that gave calmed your mental, or it provoked it like you're eating, because does the chewing wake up the reptilian brain? Or I didn't understand what you meant about the what happened when you were chewing without any food in your mouth. What I didn't hear that part.
I didn't hear properly.
Oh,
Maybe the microphone
it's too close. Okay.
didn't
I
help.
Okay, sorry. I was translating for you in French, and I didn't hear the part where you were talking. There's quite a few parts I didn't hear, but the one that I wanted to ask you a question on is the one about chewing the mouth empty that you did to see the difference, and what you said about that. Because I was wondering whether, the being pranic is to disconnect from the chewing, from the reptilian brain, and what the effect of chewing the mouth empty was for you. What did you say about that? Was not clear. Can you please talk about that?
Well, I try to.
Whether it was something that was helpful, or whether it was something that provoked more your wanting to eat. We didn't hear clearly what you said at that time because the sound was not good.
Okay. Thank you for your question. I will try to make clear this. Um, what I experienced was during my process. I mean, the 21-day process. I spent my days without food, right? And without that experience, the formation from outside to inside my intestines, makes me experience something that makes easy to maintain the presence, because I have no interference from. When I came out of the 21-day process, I start to eat again. And I perceive it, the interference, and how foods affect our mind. And how I start to to nourish my ego. The ego became very strong. Say more, 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 more. You know, mangia che ti fa bene. The ego's like that. Not because it's bad, but because egos eat through the sensorial pleasures. So then I decided to make the experience of eating something that makes me present. That's why I start to observing the way that I am, that I was eating. And then I start doing to be present, to to see the taste, to observe how is the mechanism of my toe, my mouth. Really, really present. And the result of it was I didn't my state of presence. Even with information from outside to inside. Of course, what I was eating was something light, not heavy, uh, without violence, without sadness, without. So, my conclusion is the state that we want to be through breatharianism or this kind of not eating programs, we can assess this state of consciousness eating. Okay. I don't know if I could answer your question. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Questions? Okay.
No more questions?
So, just thank you for your answer. So, for you, the chewing is not connected to waking up your reptilian brain or your need for food. It's not related. It's not that the fact that you chew anti your food is not some. It does not affect your pranism or being in unity consciousness. I mean.
Well, the fact of chewing normally makes awake a
ti
us that
risveglia
is
da dalla naturalezza,
more,
più,
you know,
più vero.
the surviving part of us. But of course, our eyes, our nose, our all sensorial experience can bring that space to that reality also. But we can transmute this survival and using this mechanism to maintain the presence. Yeah. The important things that I really believe today, the nature is perfect. And how we develop our organism as a species, as a human species, you know, it is perfect. Most of the light beings, the spiritual masters, they have food. They chewing, but the consciousness was there, awake. So in my experience, I didn't see that when I start to eat again, I lose my state of consciousness. Even when I start without um, just in the impulse, not so much aware, I start to perceive that my ego, I mean the reptilian part of our brain, say eating more. So it's part of our spiritual journey to control that. And this not means that you need to do something artificial. You can continue with the nature of your body, your physiology. You can continue to take an apple, a banana, water, and be happy. Aware, aware actions. Yeah. Thank you. Grazie. Ciao.
Come stai?
Very good. You?
Molto bene.
Thank you so much for
Thank
speaking
you.
and sharing your experience.
Grazie tante.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you all.
Grazie a tutti.
I hope you have a very
Spero che vi
wonderful
abbiate avuto
gathering.